Should I quickly clear it with...
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to GRS, and today it's time for F1 to take a little dive around the circuit of the Americas. In Texas, everything is bigger, as we've seen from some of the previous tiers this week. That includes chaos. So hopefully our guys on track today can keep it a little cleaner and we won't have 75 safety cars like we managed last week in Vegas. I am Zeke, I will be your main commentator today, and I am joined by George for the first time this season, because David still has a job like a real human. Ugh. How are you doing today, George, and what do you expect to see?
Well, the surprise for everyone is it will be upstaged. I'm really excited for some real-to action. The last couple of races across multiple tiers, lots of split strategy. So I'm expecting either a fantastic race or absolute chaos.
Both of which are totally fine by me.
As long as it's entertaining.
And there is, of course, the always the chance of rain at Kota, but quali seems to be quite nice and dry, so I'm sure our drivers will be happy about that. It remains to be seen whether it rains in the race as well. Yeah, I think if it does, we'll see quite a split grid as people choose different strategies. Although it's quite a high-wing track anyway, so it doesn't change all too much if you do put that wet setup on, if that is something required. But it's bright and sunny, so no risk of rain in quali, I would imagine. Ooh, first car out is going to be a Williams. Now, is that Alfie? Yes, it is. Mr. Harvey, who finished P4 last week after stewarding, doing a little banker lap on the intermediates, wanting to save as many tyres as possible for the race. He's the only person on the inters at the moment. We've got a few other guys out on track on some soft tyres. So Alfie needs to get a bit of a wriggle on here so he doesn't inadvertently hold up Dino. Which, for those of you not aware of the GRS rulebook, you are completely allowed to drive on suboptimal tyres for the conditions, so like Alfie is doing here on the intermediates. But during qualifying, you are never considered to be on a flying lap, even if you are, because the time is going to be completely unrepresentative, and, you know, it's not fair to expect the guy behind you to leave a 6, 7, 8 second gap just for you to get your inters lap in. So, Dino's fairly close to the back. Kind of everyone piling out a little bit. Unfortunately, down to 16 today. We are working on getting a couple more drivers in to hopefully bring that up to 18. Which will be the sole McLaren of Jonathan Foss, and the second Mercedes, which this week is going to be Matthew Bailey. See how he manages to negotiate this Circuit of the Americas on the intermediates. It takes quite a lot of curb on the inside on the final corner, tries to stay off that exit curb. It can unsettle the car a little bit and does make traction a bit difficult, rising up the hill into the now iconic turn 1. Quite hard on the brakes, careful not to lock that front left. It does get unloaded quite a lot as you crest over the hill. Nicely meets the apex, although it's pretty slow being on the intermediates as he flicks it through the S section of Sector 1. Has to shift down to 6th because, well, he's just going to get understeer for days if he doesn't, where ordinarily you will take that whole thing in 7th gear. Taking some nice apexes though, so he's going to get a pretty respectable delta on the board for him to aim at later when he does put some of those sticky C4 soft tyres on. Down to turn 11, hard on the brakes. You kind of want to lose the apex off your screen before you turn in for the corner, and he's got to slide and he's in the wall, and that's Alfie out of qualifying.
That is an absolute disaster.
That is classic Alfie, and he will be starting out the back.
He's gone out on the inters, no less. And I think Arjan Bilbas might be on a push lap.
Yeah, the next guy on track on a push lap is going to be Dino Pushkadia, actually, in the AlphaTauri, who's just heading his way around turn 12 now. Gets all the way over that outside curb there just to carry as much speed as possible through that tight turn at the end of the longest straight on the track and probably the prime overtaking opportunity. Swings a wide line through 15, slightly misses cutting back and hitting that apex, but it's all about keeping a minimum speed up through there. Can unsettle the car a little bit. There's a crest on the apex, which makes it a little bit sus. And then through the penultimate corner, get as much speed as you can through there. Make sure not to run it wide. This is an IndyCar. We do have track limits in Formula 1. And up to the line is a 33.8 to start us off from Dino. Let's see what Arjen can do behind. He's actually invalidated that lap, what would have been a 32.8. But then the Ferrari of Liam Cross beats Dino's time by 4 tenths. And then I think it's going to be Drake who's going to annihilate something. Yeah, there we go. 2 seconds from Drake, a 31.5 banker. That's a little unfair, I think. Leon's just starting one. Which Haas is this? This is going to be Tim to the line at 33.3. So it's still 1.8 off Drake, but does go provisional P2, although that's quickly beaten by Luke Mills with a 32.5. Just a second behind Drake, so that's a pretty solid lap, considering Drake's banker last week was quicker than half the grid's TT times. So he's a little overpowered, let's just say. Ferrari of Kalle Pukkanen up to the line is a 33.1, slots into P3, but quite a big gap there up to Luke in P2. And one of the Aston Marley just starting one, as Mitchell jumps to P2 with a 32.0, half a second off Drake, so good lap from the AlphaTauri driver. So if we ignore the fact that Drake exists, which is probably a good idea, we are being bookended by AlphaTauris at the moment. As just crossing the line is going to be Lewis Pierce, that is Drake's teammate, with a 33.6, so it's competitive, it's in that ballpark, but currently only good enough for P7, unfortunately. And I'm not sure who's next actually on a lap. I think it might actually be Ben Morley, who's just heading down this long back straight, beginning to harvest power. Oh, as he gets a little distracted by his teammate there, leaving him space and misses the apex at 13. That's going to cost him a fair bit of time. You really want to tighten that corner up and allow the steering just to loosen as you get on the power, otherwise the car does like to step away from you. And then through the triple right-hander, bit of a hark to Turkey Turn 8, those of you who remember that track. Although, considering they raced it a couple of years ago in Formula 1, brought it back after a decade out of the sport, and it's a 33.4 for Ben. So, once again, in that ballpark, just a couple of hundredths away from Liam Cross in that Ferrari, and a decent lap time for the Aston Martin driver. I think we're kind of done with the first runs. Is anybody else actually on a lap? Nathan's on an out lap, but I don't think anybody else is on a flyer. Now, Owen's going again, so he backed out of his lap, hence him having that 2 minute 13, just to try and get as much charge back in the batteries as possible. The first to neutral switching glitch no longer works, so you can't instantly recharge your battery on any even kind of a straight. So you do have to really back it off and apply quite a lot of brake pressure pretty much for the rest of the lap you are on if you are trying to get that battery back. There's a decent first sector, it looks like, from Owen as he makes his way through the S's and then down into turn 11 here. Just clips that inside apex. It can unsettle the car, but it is the quickest way to take the corner. You kind of have to take that risk sometimes with just 10 minutes remaining of qualifying. We've still only had 9 drivers set sort of respectable competitive lap times.
Seen a few cars run wide here, but he didn't.
As long as you keep your left tyres on the track, it is all good there. And if you can carry more speed, even though you do take a slightly longer line, it tends to pay dividends. So Owen does make the apex there at turn 15. And then through this triple right, 16, 17, and 18, it is completely flat in any but the wettest conditions. Unless you're on inters on a dry track. So it is, it's quite a sight to behold, really, going through there. Although we did see quite a few drivers yesterday going side by side, going too wide through there. As Owen goes P4 with the 33.0, that is a very good lap, only behind the 3 aliens at the top. As Cameron Don's on an out lap, just about to start one. So is Iron and pretty much everybody else. I think Nathan's on a flyer. Yeah, Nathan's on a flyer, just coming through turn 20, and he's run off the track and unfortunately invalidated that lap. At the 11th hour, penultimate corner is one of the places you can gain a lot of time, but also completely bone your lap.
Sorry, I thought Ferrari was going to get her in the way of a Mercedes then on turn 1.
It's quite a long pit exit, and you are a long way off the racing line when you're coming out. So as long as you don't get all the way into turn 1, you're probably fine. Just nice to see a little bit of situational awareness from our drivers, which seems sorely lacking yesterday, I have to say. Including from me, before you start. As Iron heading onto this back straight. With, again, a pretty decent Sector 1, gets that DRS open down here. Let's see what sort of wings is Iron running. Are they pretty standard? Yeah, it's just about hitting that 200, 201 miles an hour.
Last lap, completely run it wide and invalidated.
And does it well there. Takes plenty of curb on the inside. You do want to cut out physically possible without invalidating your lap. And Iron seemed to get a pretty good middle ground there of cutting enough, but not really risking it. He does definitely need to get a time on the board just to give him something to aim at later in the session when he goes for that final run. Good shot there heading into the penultimate corner. You can see turn 1 in the background. See a couple of cars heading around there of the Williams and the Aston Martin. As Iron heads to the line with a 32.3, so P3. The track has improved a fair bit since Mitchell and Luke set their lap times. Speaking of which, both are currently on laps. Luke is a couple of tenths up just in this final sector. So we'll probably jump back ahead of Iron if he doesn't make any major mistakes. Should be able to carry more speed through here than before. Just having that extra little bit of traction and bit of grip, as long as he doesn't get wide anywhere and on the marbles and he's invalidated at that second last corner, which is going to hit some people's laps pretty hard, I think.
Huge.
Yeah, so next man on a lap just coming up to that very same corner is going to be the Haas of Cameron Dunn. Yet to set a time, so needs to get something on the board here to get a delta for that final run. You really don't want to be half a tenth faster than Iron with a 32.2. Still a couple of tenths off. I mean, I'm not Stuart, Liam. Don't ping me this shit.
Let's have a look how many tyres have been used.
I don't think anybody's going to be doing runs on used sets here. You can only get 3 runs in. It is quite a lengthy track.
I'd be surprised if no one saved a set of tyres for the race.
Alfie
unless they know something we don't. Good old Alfie.
Just Alfie saving tyres, just in the Alfie way. So that's going to be Ben Morley on a lap, just coming to the end of Sector 1 through Turn 11 and onto this back straight. He's got Mitchell ahead of him. Mitchell is on an in-lap, but we'll be racing back to the pits. We don't want to see too much of the traffic carnage that we got in F2. Ben Morley is actually recharging his battery, so I wonder if this is an in-lap from the Aston Martin as well. Although he did look to be pushing. Maybe messed up the first run on those tyres. Says he's got a purple Sector 2. Is 800ths up on his time, but with no battery, that is going to massively hamper his exits here through turns 15 and then turn 19 when we get there. So this is probably going to be Ben back into the pits. Yeah, he was 800ths up, but I think he's going to lose all of that just on corner exits here through this final sector. But he is going to head to the line. Maybe there was a mistake in that first lap. In that final sector, he's managed to improve on. And he does jump up to P7. 5 thousandths quicker than his teammate.
Yeah, so, he gained nearly 4 attempts there. Not too bad.
Pretty good.
It'll take that.
No
Still
battery.
Time for one more run?
Well, he's going to have to hurry his way back to the pits. Because GRS still operates again and try and get to the line. It's going to be very, very close.
Yeah, it's going to be tight.
We'll have to jump back on in a little bit and take a little look. But Leon's on a lap. He's gone early for this final run. That train. The Alpine in Sector 1. Is this going to be Hugo and Luke potentially doing some stuff?
Yesterday? Everyone went out at the end of quali, and it caused an absolute train of carnage.
Apo getting blocked by half the grid and then blocking them all in return. Yes.
If everyone goes out around the 230, 220 mark, we might see the same issue.
All these guys piling out now in the same way that happened with the... I'm not sure if you were in that train as well, but I definitely was.
I was.
It was...
I must have lost at least 3 attempts in Sector 1 because your exit...
from qualifying in the pits. But Luke is going to be first man out. I think he's just gone that little bit early, maybe 30 seconds to a minute early, just to avoid traffic for the most part. But he's going to be starting this lap with 1 minute 57 left, which is probably 30 seconds too early. You want to start this lap so you finish it when the clock's gone. You might want to start it with exactly 1:30, but you want to mostly to avoid traffic more than anything else. That's Leon cutting the pit line on exit. just to try and get to the racing line for
I
turn
think
one
he's
and
going
save
to
some
lose out
time.
on at least a couple of attempts, Luke, here.
I think Leon's going to do this. Leon should just make the line in order to get a lap in. Luke might pick up some traffic as he gets nicely through Sector 1. He's a quarter of a second up already. It says it's purple, but Drake's time exists, so I don't know how much we trust that, although it could be right, because Drake did set that as a banker. As Luke heads into turn 11, there's going to be a couple of cars ahead, but they should be far enough to not give dirt yet in Sector 3, as long as that Ferrari and Aston Martin get a wriggle on. As we see cars filing through turn 1 just to start their lap as well. Everyone's sort of backing off a little bit, leaving space, but
I think we're okay.
They haven't timed it quite as late, so I think everyone's going to get there to the line. Leon should just about make it, but it's going to be a second or two. Luke's 3.5 tenths up here. So we'll be looking to displace Cameron from P3 at the very least. If we can find another couple of tenths here in this final sector. We saw how much time Mitchell gained in the final sector, so this could be provisional P2 on for Luke. And a potential front row start as he flicks it round the second last corner, gets right on that white line, but manages to keep this lap valid. Unlike last time, it gets all over that curb on the final exit. That's going to harm that a little bit, and it's a 32.2. So it was a decent lap in the end. Leon is just going to make the line by about 8 seconds or so. But here comes Dino to finish his lap, finds 3 tenths, jumps up a place, up to P13. And then it's going to be... Nathan is on an outlap. This is going to be tight to the line. No, he's just missed it. Gets a big snap out of the second last corner. And he's not going to get there to start
Cameron Don isn't
lap.
Improving.
Neither's Drake. Drake's invalidated, so that 31.5 is exactly where the limit is going to be for anybody to try and get pole position. Here comes Tim to the line in his Haas. Can he find the time? No. Stays P6. Found 3 tenths, but doesn't find any positions on the grid. But Ben Morley has invalidated that lap. Found 3 tenths and was pretty good, but not quite enough. Cameron stays P4. Iron lost a load of time in Sector 2 somewhere. And finishes with a 32.3 dead. There's a Ferrari to the line. Is that Ken? Yeah, Ken jumps up to P7, so finds a little bit of time. Now it's going to be that second Red Bull, Lewis Pearce. Can he make it a Red Bull front row? He's 3 tenths up, but he needs to find a huge chunk of time in this final sector if he wants to get up anywhere around his teammate. Finds another 10th or so, jumps up to P10. That's a decent performance. As Owen Heinen finds 3 tenths as well and jumps up to P7, displacing Kalle Pukkanen. And taking that place, Liam Cross to the line, lost time, didn't improve, stays P11, so that's a disappointing qualifying as he's dropped to P12 by Leon Rilla. That's a pretty good lap there from Leon. Didn't have a delta to work with, just had to kind of send it. As Hugo stays P14 in the second Alpine, and that is going to be the end of qualifying. So Drake gets pole with his banker, which he then didn't improve on, even though he did go out later, by half a second from Mitchell Merckx. With Luke Mills and Cameron Don on that second row. We saw them have a few comings together last season. Will we see another one here in Texas? Ian Bilbas and Tim Ilbrink, the 2 Dutchmen on the third row. Ahead of another Dutchman with Owen Heinen and the Finn Kalle Pukkanen. And then Leon and Ben Morley on that 5th row. Leon with a good lap there to get in to that sort of ballpark of everyone else. With no delta to work with. Lewis Pearce and Liam Cross on the 6th row. I think Lewis will be reasonably happy with that lap. His first time in F1, but I think Liam will be a little disappointed he didn't improve on that final run. Nathan Powers and Hugo Nelson on the 7th row with Dino Pushkadir, Alfie Harvey, and, oh shit, what's this guy's name? Matthew something. Oh, as my pad's disconnected itself. Well done, pad. Please don't do that.
Matthew something.
Matthew Bailey, I think. I want to say Matthew
legend.
Bailey, but I don't want to be wrong.
Matthew something is his new adopted name.
Yeah. So after a P2 and a P4 for Williams last week, neither of them qualifying in that top 10.
Oh, this is exciting, Adam. So, no safety car, straight into the race. Predictions for turn 1. I'm gonna say very similar to yesterday. There's gonna be a Red Bull around. Now, which one it is kind of depends on just how spicy this race might get. If Drake gets turned around into turn 1, and that could be interesting. 2 cars retired by turn 1.
They're not that bad.
No, I'm not saying they are, but I've got a feeling there's something in the air today. It smells like disaster.
Hugo's going to go down the inside, do a typical Hugo line of missing the apex, and just punt someone back to Vegas.
Well, let's just hope Alfie has a stronger showing than qualifying for his sake.
Well, if he starts on inters in this, then it's his own fault.
Yes. Imagine pushing hard on inters.
We see hards and mediums on the front row. Yeah, as we've got 5 lights. It's lights out, and away they go, Matthew Bailey. I think there may have been an issue with his peripherals. Said something about his pedals. Mitchie gets a poor start, and he's already been jumped by Luke and Cameron, though. Tries to send it down the inside of Cameron. They're going to be 3 wide behind Drake. But that Red Bull away nicely at the front. And Luke up to P2 gets a great start there, just in the slipstream of the Red Bull. Manages to jump Mitchie Merckx. And can he hang with Drake here?
Yeah,
and really make a fight of this. There's clean racing all the way down. Everyone making it through Sector 1 nicely. Iron gets a little bit away from the apex there. And kind of pushes Tim off track slightly, coming back on. But it's a tricky corner to go side by side. Iron gives up the place. Yeah, gives up the place to Tim. And he's now going to come under attack from Owen Heinen, the 3 Dutchmen together. As we see possible strategies, medium hard or medium hard, although I think doing an additional stop here and not using softs at any point as well is a little bit suicide. As Drake going defensive into 12, so showing just how good a start Luke got. Mitchell tries to get his nose in there and take a look down the inside. We've already had a couple of cars cut away from the field, and that's going to be Nathan, Hugo and Lewis Pierce. So those guys will be hoping that this train slows themselves up. Tim sends a move on his teammate. Cameron saw him coming. And Tim backs out of that. Yeah, Cameron saw him coming. Tim backed out. Tim is on some soft tyres, though. So let's get the tyres up and we can see, yeah, he's the only man on softs. Drake is on hard, so hopefully it won't break the field too easily here. As Tim already picks up 3 seconds on lap 1.
That's not a good sign, especially on the soft tyres. Those soft tyres should last 11 laps. I feel like he's compromised
they're pretty good,
already.
But now he's going to go for that move on Cameron.
Forces
him off track. Nathan and Hugh, in the pit. So I wonder if they must have picked up some damage somewhere. That would explain why they got dropped off the back of the field. The front 3 beginning to break away from these 2 Haas cars now after the little bit of inter-team fighting. But Tim on those soft tyres should be able to bridge that gap relatively quickly. But whether he can get there and then start making moves will remain to be seen. Cameron has a big slide at the top of the hill. Manages to hold it there through turn 9. But that's going to lose him a lot of time and put Owen right on the back of him. Yeah, here's Ken trying to take a look at Iron, but also got to defend from Leon at the same time. Ben Morley we see going all over the curbs on the exit of 11 and getting completely out of shape. Here's Ken looking for a move. Iron defends, so Ken's going to have to go on the outside. Just doesn't quite have the straight line speed in that Ferrari. And that allows the Mercedes driver to maintain P7 for now. Yeah, Tim's already closed that gap up to the front 3, so a lot of pace in that Haas car. And those soft tyres working wonders, and it's going to bring the rest of the train with him, I think, as well. Like, the slipstream is extremely powerful around here. Down that long back straight. You don't even need the DRS to overtake people at times. And, well, Tim's going to be on the back of Mitchell, who runs very wide out of the penultimate corner. That's going to compromise him into this final turn. And might allow Tim to go for a move into turn 1. Drake sets another fastest lap, but they're all going to be a little bit pointless at the moment. They're all going to get smashed as soon as people pit. Tim just doesn't quite have the momentum to go for Mitchell, but Mitchell has tagged Luke, and that's a spin from the Alpine. And that is very unfortunate. Alpine's season goes from bad to worse. Didn't score points at all in Vegas, and they're now running in 12th and dead last 16th place.
It's not what you want to see. Clean driving is what we want to see.
I think Mitchell there just tried to close off Tim and just misjudged exactly where Luke was going to place his Alpine. But unfortunately, we'll have to see how our runner-up last season can recover from that. He's going to have a few places to make up, but definitely has the pace. As we've got another spinner, and this time it is Owen Heinen going a long way off at turn 11.
The positive news for the Alpine team here is he's still in the DRS train.
Yeah, so
he's somehow been spun round and recovered and is still in the train. Oh, it's out.
Tim's made a move on Mitchell. Owen's had a spin. Luke's going for a move now on Ben Molly and makes it there into turn 11. So already made up 2 places, both the Aston Martins kind of sliding their way out of his way. As big snap for Luke on the way into 15. Manages to keep hold of the car. He's now on the back of Alfie Harvey. These two are real-life friends, but don't expect either of them to pull any punches here. As Cameron picks up a 3-second penalty.
That's why he lost the rear, but caught it just in time.
Drake goes fastest yet again, now has a 1.8-second lead at the front. Tim has managed to clear Mitchell, and Cameron kind of hanging on to them a little bit in P4 and bringing the train with him. But both the Haas cars already with track limits penalties. Alfie looks for a move on Liam Cross. I think fortunate to not punt the Ferrari there. Just about backed out of it as late as possible as Tim picks up another 3 seconds. That's 6 already. We're on lap 4. At this rate, he's going to get disqualified.
I'm going to pop down to the garage, Adam, and see if we can find out any mechanic strategies. Back in a moment.
Gunter Steiner is going to have destroyed every door in that place, so you can just walk straight into Haas. As we see Luke making a move on Alfie for P9 just later on the brakes into turn 11. And nicely back up into a reasonable position. Liam's lost the DRS in front, but might be able to gain it back here as they run into 12. Iron's losing places here a little bit on those hard tyres, getting a little compromise with all the medium runners around him. As Leon down the inside into 13, but leaves Iron space on the outside for him to drive it back, putting that Mercedes in a good position. He manages to get the inside for 15. And should get a pretty good drive out there to hold that position for now. And just about hanging on to that DRS window of the cars in front to allow him to defend into turn 1. Leon all over the back of that Ineos rear wing, though. And, well, Iron's going to have to be have one eye on his mirrors as well as on the road ahead. As Drake's lead 2.1, so it's not growing all that much, but he is on hards compared to the soft runner behind, so he's pretty good around here, is Drake. We have seen this sort of thing before. Very respectful driving from the Mercedes and the Alfa Romeo, but Leon does manage to force his way past Iron and up into P6. Now needs to get a good run here through Sector 1. Hope Cameron gets a little bit of dirty air from Ken, who has managed to jump him in the last lap or so. Kalapukkonen in the Ferrari up to P4. So didn't race last week. He's looking for a good result here. There's Leon running off track. Ben Molly picks up 3 seconds. There's 3 drivers with time penalties already. We're about halfway through lap 5. We see Tim in P2. I could just see that in the distance. His light is already flashing, and Mitch is all over the back of that Haas. Those soft tyres are going to start graining now, and Mitch makes the move. Tim thought about a switchback down to the inside after Mitch had passed, but just so much overspeed with the DRS there down that back straight, which puts Mitchell back into P2. And I'm not sure how hard Tim is going to be able to fight this with no battery, with no deployment on that Haas car. Gets a little squirrely through 15, and that might sort of release Mitchell a bit to try and chase after Drake if possible, and maybe put Tim under some pressure from Calla behind as well. Let's go back in with Luke Cam, still in P9, but all over the back of Liam Cross and Ian Bilbas. All these guys here, though, are going to have the DRS up until Leon in P6, so Luke is going to have to get creative here to make a move. It's not going to be as simple as press the DRS button and sail past, unless someone ahead makes a mistake. But recovering decently well as of yet. Still a very good chance for good points. There isn't a gap in the field until you get down to Dino in 13th. Bigger than about 1.2 seconds, so not counting Drake, of course, who's just sort of left. But yeah, going to have to get a little bit creative to make up places here. I think this is kind of what happened in F2, where you've got these long trains of 5, 6, 7, 8 cars, and people started getting a little too creative in the idea of making overtakes and gaining positions. I think most of the action is happening in this train, as Cameron's been sort of caught a little by Leon, so there must have been a mistake there from the Haas driver, as we've got Owen and Alfie fighting behind, and Alfie just about manages to fend Owen off and keep P10 for now. A little bit of contact there from front wing to rear wing. Just Owen trying to carry a little more speed into that corner than Alfie was comfortable with. Irons made a bit of a mistake, I think, and got a little out of shape through 15. He's coming under heavy pressure from the Ferrari of Liam Cross. Just about manages to hold onto that position, but Liam's going to have the inside line here for the final turn. Gets that Ferrari down the inside. He's going to leave Iron space on the exit. He does. Nice racing from the pair of them. They're all going to have the DRS here. Luke as well behind. There might be a little bit of battery deployment here from the Alpine. Is he going to make it 3 wide into turn 1? Is he just going to try and follow Liam through? Just slightly misses braking. Gets a big slide on the exit. And has to sit in P9 for now. These two fighting ahead. Not opening up a door for him quite as he would want. So unfortunate there for Luke. Couldn't quite capitalise on that. But let's go and have a look at Calla, who has managed to get on the back of Tim. Those soft tyres still in that graining phase. Starting to fall away quite a lot. He's lost 2.5 seconds to Mitchell, who is keeping that gap to Drake pretty respectable, still at about 2.5. So only really lost maybe half a second over the last 2 or 3 laps, which is very respectable, considering he's probably spent some more tyres and some more battery fighting with Tim. As we see Calla down the inside into 12, but leaves Tim space, and that's going to give the Haas driver the inside here for 13. Again, leaving space for each other though, some nice respectable driving, I say, as Calla tries to earn himself a little more with some tyre-to-tyre contact, but manages to get through into 15. I don't think that was anything too untoward, as Tim can just carry so much more speed, but also gets a lot of understeer. He's going to try it into the second last corner. That's a terrible idea, but it works. They both get through there unscathed, and both staying on the track as well, so a lot of skill being shown by our drivers, and that is perfectly timed by Tim as well, because he manages to get the DRS too. To allow him to stay ahead of Callow and maintain that P3 for now. Although, well, Mitchell, Tim, Leon and Cameron at the front all having penalties, so Callow and Liam in the sister Ferrari are finding themselves in pretty good positions. Not necessarily by anything of their own, just by keeping it on the track, which you would kind of expect our F1 drivers to be able to do. But this fight here between Tim and Calla has allowed Mitchell to pull another half a second. Lost a couple of tenths to Drake, but not too much. Definitely could be in play here with a bit of an interesting strategy call if Mitchell wants to try that. The undercut incredibly powerful around this track. Tyre wear extremely high. Degradation is a little sus at times, although you can do a medium soft, but the tyres just from about 3 laps old just always feel second hand here. As we see Ken trying this move again on Tim, but Tim's going to stick there and once again get the inside for 13 and manage to defend the position. But then Calla's going to have the inside for 15, gets all over that inside curve just to make sure he leaves space for the Haas driver and makes his way up. But Tim's going to come back at him through 16 and 17, 18 as well, and retakes the position in the Haas. But this time I think he overtook before the DRS line. And now he's heading into the pit, so this is going to be a mega undercut off those soft tyres. Would expect to see some fastest laps coming in from the Haas, but that's going to release Ken to try and chase after Mitchell. Though that gap between them now up to 4 seconds. They've lost so much time fighting, while the AlphaTauri has just been hammering some pretty quick laps in and trying to get back on terms with the Red Bull up at the front. The gap's not coming down between the pair of them, as Luke's in the pits as well, so on a little bit of a different strategy pitting with the Alpine, but he's not too far behind Tim actually. So I wonder if Tim maybe made a mistake on the way into the pits. But just a 2.3 second gap for Luke, so with those penalties you would expect him to be able to get ahead of Tim as long as he can keep pace with the Haas. On some brand new hard tyres, so these are going to be some pretty quick laps. Hugo's binned it, and that's a safety car. Hello. I would have almost thought that was tactical, aside from the fact that it's not going to help Luke. But hopefully Hugo doesn't leave, because he's a host. Although if he wants to jump in here and help on comms, that would be appreciated. This might harm Drake and Iron a little bit here. Being on those hard tyres, it always makes sense to pit under safety car, but they're going to go on some mediums that they don't need.
Experience. I reached 63% rear tyre wear on a 17 lap
Ken's
stint,
staying out.
so you could assume it will be around 70 for 19.
Oh wait, I've disconnected.
You have disconnected, but I am still here. Do not worry.
I was sure I saw Mitch head into the pits, and then the game was like, "Nah, he's still out," and I'm like, "No, he isn't." I'm
I will
coming.
keep people. There's a lot of changes being made to the positions. A lot of people have pit, and some have stayed out.
Wait, who stayed out? Who's mad enough
Cross
to have
Liam
stayed
on
out?
9 lap old mediums
So
has stayed out.
So Iron
so has
was
Mozzie.
right. So Iron was right yesterday. Being in a Ferrari lowers your IQ.
It doesn't seem like the best choice right now.
Being on mediums, especially with a lap 9 safety car, I don't see why you wouldn't pit for the hards. I don't get what you're gaining from it.
And Mozzie and P2 is on 9 lap old hards, so I'm not sure why he hasn't pitted.
So I would say that Ben doesn't think mediums can get to the end, and he's like, well, I'm going to have to pit again anyway, so I might as well do it when I want to and not kind of when I have to because my mediums are dead.
Yeah, the medium.
And I'm back.
Oh, a little teleport in safety car then, maybe because you rejoined.
Potentially, but didn't kill anyone, so it's fine.
I feel like Arjan's is in a great position here. He could easily gain some positions early before the DRS is re-enabled. His tyres will fall off hard for the last 3 laps, but
yeah, I'd say Iron and Ken are both in pretty good positions. Not having penalties when other guys around them kind of do.
Also that
means that if this is just a train to the end, they're going to gain positions from that. Now, I don't think it will be, but if.
If you was Luke Mills, you could pit here for the hard mediums and potentially lose 1 position. Would you do that? Maybe 2.
If he has another set of mediums. And if he does that, he's kind of hampering himself if there's another safety car in about 4 or 5 laps.
That is a very good point.
You don't want to put mediums on now, burning your final set. When you're on hards that will comfortably make it to the end, yeah, fine, you're down in P12, but you were 9th before the safety car anyway, and before you pit the lap before it. So you've lost a couple of places, but you'll gain those back. Liam and Ben have to pit at the front, so there's a couple of places you're going to gain, as long as you don't lose time, like a pit stop worth of time. So you've essentially only lost 1 place under safety car. Do you think Luke can overtake at least 1 driver? Yes.
No, but with Nathan is pretty close to the back. Would he risk it and put the mediums on? No, he's going to stay out.
I mean, Nathan is last, but he has just put those hards on and knows they'll definitely get to the end and they'll be fine. But again, I think you're just going to lose too much. Like, you're going to be last on hards that will definitely get to the end, or last on mediums that will just about get to the end, but they'll be square. And if there's another safety car in about 5 laps, you're going to be hung out to dry. Like, if it's too early for you to realistically put softs on, you're just going to be hung out to dry. So I think you need to stick with what you've got now, and then everybody, the 2 at the front should have 2 sets of race tyres left. Liam's probably 1 set of mediums, 1 set of hards.
It could be carnage,
and Ben's probably 2 sets of mediums. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if the safety car restart, you're right, there's a good chance there could always be another one.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened in F2 yesterday. As soon as you put 7 or 8 cars close together, it just all went mental. So, there's nothing saying we're not going to get 4 wide into 12 again and things like that, like we saw yesterday.
It's going to be crazy because I could imagine Cross Liam on those 10 lap old mediums is going to back the pack up so much.
It's all going to depend. But, I mean, you would imagine Drake's going to clear them pretty quickly. He's got the pace, he's got the brand new medium tyres, he's going to have a big pace advantage just from the rubber itself, and, you know, he was leading the race by around about 3 seconds, so showed he has the pace over the field. You'd imagine he's going to clear them relatively quickly. Then you get the likes of Mitchell and Ken and Leon that are going to clear them fairly quickly, because they're definitely faster around here than Liam and Ben. But they're on hard tyres, so they're not going to have the same size advantage that Drake has got. And those guys may cause a bit of a bottleneck trying to make their way past what is going to be like a 2-car roadblock, essentially. The tyres do drop off in grip relatively quickly as soon as they get past about 3 laps old, and then they kind of level out from there. So,
This is going to be exciting. Arjan and Cameron Don also in P8 and 7. I wonder if Cameron Don will just concede the position.
I don't think it's in his best interest to fight it too hard. Iron being on those medium tyres. Cameron hoping he can maybe just drag him through some traffic.
Here we go. Here we go.
Mitchell leaves a bit of a gap into the final corner, I think, expecting a bit of chaos up ahead. As we do restart, Drake gets a pretty good restart. He's already on the back of the Aston Martin. Is he going to send a move into turn 1? We've got a pretty good view here from Mitch's car. Drake does try for the apex, hits it nicely. Ben leaves him space, and that's already Drake up into P2. And now he's going to look for a move on Liam Cross into Sector 1. This is brave. Drake backs out of it. He's all over the back of that Ferrari rear wing, though. Can he find a gap to get through? He needs to get past this traffic as quick as possible. Try and get ahead of Mitch, get away from Mitcha. Ben Molly makes a mistake at the end of Sector 1, and Mitcha's going to be right on the back of Drake here. If he can clear Liam, I think this is going to be a move under braking into 11. Goes on the outside line, gets right on the back of that Red Bull. Liam's going to fight this as hard as he can, but Mitch is going to have the drag with the traction and should be able to make his way down.
Ferrari has a slipstream, though.
Yeah, Drake's playing this smart, giving the slipstream to Liam. Doesn't want to get Mitchell too close to him, but he's already there in the AlphaTauri. He's going to try it down the inside, some into Red Bull fighting. We'd never see this in real life. Mitchell goes for the lead, gets the line, but Drake's going to fight this back. Has the inside for 13. Just manages to get his nose in. There's a little bit of wheel to wheel, but nothing too bad, I don't think.
The Alfa Romeo hit the back of the Mercedes.
Oh dear. There seems to be a bit of front wing on the front of 15. Luke has made his way up into P10. Has cleared Alfie Harvey. Iron's ahead of Liam as well, so that Ferrari sliding backwards quickly. Ken's on the back of these two now as well.
Oh, there's been a few cars making contact.
And Liam's been sent round. Luke's off the track. That's an Aston Martin spun round as well, I think. Or it was ghosted anyway, yeah. So that is going to be the two guys that stayed out right down at the back of the field. And then we're going to have a 6 or 7 car gaggle here heading into turn 1. Luke's made his way into P6, so a great restart from the Alpine driver on a bit of a recovery mission after that earlier contact into turn 1. Just staying out of trouble. He did run off the track completely through the last 2 corners just to avoid everyone. That's a Haas cutting all the corners. I think that's Tim. Or it might be Cameron. Looks like Cameron because he's now dropping down places, so... potentially a wheel disconnection or something of that nature, because he did just kind of forget that Sector 1 exists. But let's go and take a look at the front 3. Mitchell and Ken both hanging on to Drake for now. They're going to need to dump quite a bit of battery, though, I think, here, just to make sure they stick within that DRS range and get dragged along by the Red Bull, because Iron is coming pretty quickly here. That Mercedes up in P4. Luke's going for a move for P5, getting a much better exit out of 11 and greater straight line speed down the straight. Manages to make the move on Leon, and Owen's trying to follow him through as well. So this is going to be Owen up into P6. Gets the inside line for 13 and manages just to squeeze the Alfa Romeo a little bit out of space. Like, nope, I have the line. This is my corner. Go away. And that is going to be P6 for Owen Heinen. You're going to try and stick with Luke here and hope the Alpine can drag him up towards this front group. And also hoping that Iron can get on terms with them as well. Mitch has dropped just out of the DRS. He's going to need to find some time through Sector 1. But this is going to be hard tyres against mediums. That's not going to be the easiest thing to do. He needs to find about a 10th in order to get back in the DRS before that long straight. He's going to be a bit of a sitting duck for Calla behind. As Cameron Don retires in the pit lane, so it could have been some sort of wheel issue potentially. Maybe loss of force feedback or something of that nature, which is unfortunate for the Haas driver, but his teammate is still running currently in P8, although carrying a few penalties on the back of Leon at the moment. Not sure he's going to be able to make that move.
From the Mercedes garage. I believe there has been damage caused to Arjan's Mercedes in the contact that caused the 4-car pile-up, where Cross Liam and Arjan made contact into the second last corner.
Well, the front wings are all intact, so it doesn't look like it's going to be something that the guys in the Mercedes garage are going to be able to fix. So Iron might be stuck with that for the end of the race. He's dropping time to Callow ahead, although he does have that DRS advantage down that straight, and he's going to need to start looking in his mirrors a little bit, because Luke and Owen are coming pretty quickly. Just 7 tenths that Luke needs to find in order to grab the DRS off who was his championship rival last year, and this is going to be a fight for P4, so how the mighty have fallen, I guess. It's a little bit like Mercedes in real life. They've gone from winning things to fighting for P4.
P7 and 8 are fighting quite hard.
Yeah, that's going to be Tim and Leon. Tim's already burnt all his battery from the safety car restart and picks up another 3 seconds for his trouble. Leon's completely off the track at the final corner.
Wow.
But that is going to give him a reasonable bit of traction and drive. As long as he got a warning for that, it's A-OK. But Tim's going to try it into turn 1 with that DRS. Sort of a show and go a little bit from the Haas. Leon's going to try and fight this back, though. These two were both running towards the front in Vegas last week. We've got a yellow flag and a spin for Nathan Powers at turn 1. And shuffles him back to P13. And just at that moment, Alfie, his teammate, gets overtaken by Dino as well. So a bad few seconds for the Williams team, losing a couple of positions. Luke's managed to gain a couple of tenths to Iron through that first exit, but Iron's losing time hand over fist to Calla ahead. It's now a 3-second gap between the podium positions and everyone else, and Drake has managed to rebuild his 2-second cushion over Mitchell relatively quickly. Those medium tyres putting in some work on the Red Bull. Mitchell here needs to try and hang that gap at like a reasonable length, and hopefully can come back at Drake in the last few laps. If the Red Bull gets a little bit slidey, might burn off that rubber a little quicker than he's hoping. They do become almost impossible to drive when you've got graining around here, which is not ideal. As Owen's sticking with Luke though, so good race pace it seems from the Aston Martin. They were reasonably good in quali. Owen especially, that first lap was
Luke looks very low on battery as well compared to Owen.
I think Luke's had to spend quite a lot to clear some traffic, and Owen's just kind of been following him through. Hasn't had to spend that at all. So that's gonna pay dividends at the end of the race, or perhaps even earlier when they do manage to get on the back of Iron. If Iron is carrying any kind of damage, potentially to the rear wing or the underfloor, where it's really, really going to hurt is going to be in Sector 1 through these high downforce corners. And you can see Luke's just gained around about a 1/10.5 through there. And then got a little bit of a slide and lost it again. So, but then gains quite a lot going over the crest and up the hill.
Contact. I saw someone go into the side pod of the Mercedes and someone into the rear a few corners before. So, highly likely side pod or rear wing damage.
Yeah, neither of which are ideal or can be repaired. I believe if there's a red flag, they can repair your car completely. Red flags are enabled in GRS, as Owen does make that move on Luke. With the DRS assistance, I think these two are going to be smart enough just to work together a little bit, trying to slingshot each other up to the back of that Mercedes, and then sort out who is going to finish P4 a little later on. Which is the smart way to play it. You don't want to go for every move that's possible. You just want to drive the 28 laps in the quickest way possible in order to maximise your position. That gap's hanging around 1.4 though. I think Iron's just about got the measure of whatever damage he's carrying now. And those medium tyres are still working pretty well on the Mercedes, though. Will start coming into graining pretty quickly. Owen seems very fast through that final sector though, and got the gap down to 1.2. But whether there's lower wings on the Mercedes of Iron, or he just got a better exit through the final turn, he did manage to pull another 10th or so on the run into turn 1. But just a couple of tenths as we see the Williams swapping positions. So Nathan now P11, Alfie P12. As Liam and Ben Molly at the back have both pit now. So nobody has to pit for the rest of the race. Although I imagine we'll see a few late stops just to try and steal that fastest lap point off. I believe Drake currently holds it. So be interesting to see who actually finally manages to steal that point. Callum managing to hang on to Mitchell out the front though, so with Mitchell's penalty, unless that gets removed post stewarding, this is going to be a case of a P2 for Ferrari, which is going to be significantly better. And Irons almost lost the car. Gets a huge tank slapper on. I think he's playing Dirt Rally for a moment. Just about manages to keep it pointing somewhat in the right direction through 12, but that's going to put Owen and Luke all over the back of that Ineos rear wing. And can he possibly hope to hold them off here when he's going to be giving away DRS and seemingly carrying some sort of damage? The way the car just let go there in a corner where it's generally pretty difficult to spin makes me think that potentially is rear wing damage that he is carrying on that Mercedes, which is not ideal. This is going to be a bit of a three-car train, although I don't think Owen's going to want to sit behind a damaged Mercedes for too long. Two Dutchmen potentially coming to blows just with the Brit of Luke Mills sort of hanging around behind and just, you guys race and burn all your resources, and I'll just sit here and recoup some battery and take places when they become available. You can just see Owen's got so much more turning through Sector 1 as well.
It's good for Luke because he needs to regain battery. He can just follow them two while they fight.
A little bit. Gone from 20% to 25%. But he's going to need to find a bit more. Ian and Owen both hanging up around the 50s to 60s. So Luke definitely needs to find some more, but needs to get a bit of a move on.
He's on the attack now.
Tim and Leon are on the way. As Owen is going to use that DRS. Yeah, Ian's smart enough to realise that you really can't defend a DRS overtake into 12 unless you're going to dump about 40% of your battery, and he's just not willing to do that. If he can hang on to Owen here, though, he's going to have that DRS advantage, and maybe we'll see him make the move back next time round. As
watching Arjan's telemetry so late on the power.
Yeah, so he's definitely not happy with something in that car is not helpful. As we see Nathan has made a move on Dino. We've got an AlphaTauri in a Williams sandwich right now over that final points paying position. Ian gets an instant 3 seconds for corner.
I think Leon's going to make a move on Tim going into turn 1.
At the final corner, yeah, Leon is pretty close to Tim, although they're both on similar age tyres and both carrying penalties. So these two really should just be working together.
Slashing.
Yeah, Tim likes to do this. He can't. That's a late defensive move. And then a swipe back to the racing lap was sus. So that might end up getting reported.
That was a double weave. That was so dangerous, so late and so close.
It was not so much the double weave. You are allowed to make a defensive move and then back to the line. It was the speed of it and how close to the back of him Leon was.
I think there's a minimum distance in the rules, but we'll check that after.
I mean, it's not written into the rulebook. It's just kind of, inferred. You're not allowed to make responsive defensive moves. So if Leon was pulling out there, Tim's not allowed to swipe across the front of him.
Oh, Arjan's really close to Owen.
Pick that defensive line. Yeah,
is he going to go for it?
He's handling that Mercedes pretty well. I think there might be a case of just slide it down the inside into 12, or make Owen spend all his battery, one or the other. Luke takes a look to the inside. Very close to contact there between the rear wheel of the Mercedes and the front wing of the Alpine, but just about keeping apart.
We missed the Leon and Tim fight. I bet that was exciting again.
Well,
there's so many fights you can watch.
Leon's dropped 0.6 back, so I wonder if Tim scared him off or he made a little mistake. One or the other, I would imagine.
I'd be scared.
We'll see Leon on the radio to his engineer. He's intimidating me.
I would not want to be behind
Carlos
him.
Sainz. Tim runs off the track at the penultimate corner again. That's going to be more penalties. How many is he on now? Is this like 12? No, he's on 9 still. Okay. As is Dino.
Tim is a menace.
Dino's got 9 seconds of penalties somehow. I completely missed that happening. He's been just as bad with track limits. Interesting. But let's check back in with Drake. Make sure he's not falling asleep or playing iRacing on his wheel.
Surprised how long Kenny's just been following Max for.
I don't think he really cares about making the move, to be honest. He knows Mitch has got that time penalty coming at the end of the race, and well, he gets to save tyres and battery just sort of hanging in DRS. He's still sitting around 65% as Alfie picks up 3 seconds as well. So penalties beginning to flood in a little now. This is going to be potentially 3 wide into 12. Owen, Ian, and Luke. Owen goes very defensive. Everyone's trying to just hang in there, try and get some slipstream. This is going to be 3 wide. As Ian manages to make his way past Owen. Luke wasn't quite close enough to get through there as well, but Owen's going to try and send it back. He's going to try and hang it round the outside of 13. If he can stick this line here, he's going to have the inside for 15. Ian gets a big slide, and that's potentially going to open him up to a move from Luke. Luke's down the inside for 15. I love that fucking move. But it never works as Ian manages to get the traction down and manages to hold P5 for now. Some good racing from these three, all very clean and not liable to A, kill someone, or B, give someone a heart attack. But is doing pretty good. Just keeping it clean, but giving us some nice racing to watch as, yeah, Drake's left. 5.5 seconds the lead at the front now. Just a little bit of a Sunday drive in a Red Bull. Where have we seen this before? Followed by Mitchell and Calla, who are still half a second apart. Ken's just kind of hanging back, and yeah, I'll take a P2 for Ferrari on penalties after the race. This is fine. I haven't been involved in any incidents. I know I'm not going to get nailed by the stewards afterwards.
Oh, when did Owen get his penalty?
A little bit ago.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, Owen and Ian both with penalties here. So Luke's looking on for a P4, which, having been P2, will feel like a disappointment, but having been spun and dropped to I think 13th place it was at the worst, is going to be pretty good. Although Tim is closing in at quite a rate of knots now, just a second and a half down behind Luke. The more these three fight, the more it brings that Haas potentially onto the scene. Iron's going to try for a move into 12 again. Owen shoots back across to the racing line just to carry as much speed through there as possible, and just about manages to hang on to P4 for now. Iron doesn't have the overlap for 13. And he just doesn't have the pace or the confidence in that Mercedes right now.
His tyres are going to fall off a cliff in the next 3 laps. I reckon in 3 laps' time, his tyres are going to be on the edge.
In
60%.
the practice I did around... Yeah, you see Iron's just getting some understeer there through 16, 17 and 18. In the practice I did around here, the mediums felt pretty good until you hit 14, and then they immediately felt awful.
Yeah.
So
around 3 laps.
Once it gets to that point, it would not surprise me at all if Luke just sails on by on those hards, which are still going to be feeling pretty good. They have less overall grip than the mediums, but because they wear slower, there is that crossover period, which is probably around about 2 or 3 laps ago, I would imagine, where the hard was theoretically the better tyre, but I am managing to hang on to Owen, is giving him that DRS assistance in order to defend, although these three have lost 8 seconds to the 2 ahead. So not ideal. But yeah, it looks like we're going to have Drake winning again, unless something cataclysmic happens. And then 2 guys that didn't score points last week on the podium, which is going to be pretty nice.
I didn't realise Tim and Leon have joined the race.
Yeah, they've been getting there for a few laps. They've just about managed to grab the DRS there from Tim. He hasn't had any battery in order to spend to get there quicker. Iron's going to look for a move into 12 again, but Owen just about fends him off. Is Iron going to try this on the exit potentially? Just doesn't quite have the traction on those medium tyres anymore to really get there, but Luke's going to have to get a little bit aggressive, I think, now, just to defend himself from Tim and Leon behind, as this is going to become a train of 5 all fighting over P4, but the only one in this train without penalties is Luke, so he can kind of just chill, and as long as he's still in this train by the end of the race, as Owen picks up another 3 seconds, that's going to make it 6. Yeah, if Luke can be in this train at the end of the race, it's going to be a nailed on P4. But needs to make sure he doesn't pick up any penalties or anything of that nature.
There's not a moment that Tim's not using his battery.
Yeah, he does like that button.
He's one of them drivers.
Yeah, as Owen
contact.
and Iron are side by side through turn 1, a little bit of wheel-to-wheel rubbing. Although we are in America, so I suppose rubbing is racing. And this is going to hamper Luke, and he's going to have Tim all under the back of that Alpine rear wing. We'll have to keep both eyes on his mirrors.
Oh, no. This looks risky. This looks risky. I was watching the onboard of Tim then, and he nearly clipped the back wheel of Luke Mills.
And he's going to try
sent it on Luke Mills.
But Luke's just going to focus the exit. I think there's a bit of contact wheel-to-wheel, though, and Luke is sent off the track, which is going to hamper his exit, and this might see Leon making a move up here for P7 as well. Yeah.
He just gave Leon the position.
Luke's
I think
not
he knows
going to
they
be
all
too
have
happy to that. Yeah, these guys all have penalties.
And he doesn't want to be killed.
Yeah, he's going to just wait for the chaos to kick off. You're now going to have Tim up behind Iron. He's just seen the move Tim sent on him, and he's like, well, if he does that to Iron, that's a place.
What a tactical move this is. Will it pay off? Is he the Jose Mourinho of F1?
Well, you would think, being a West Brom fan, he wouldn't be too good at tactics, but you know, he's not doing too bad.
Oh, oh, oh God!
I hope he's watching
Oh,
the
just
stream.
now got a penalty.
Another 3 for
That's
Iron.
great
So
for Luke
the
Mills.
first 3 he got was a direct corner cut. That one there is an accumulation of warnings. So that's going to be 6 seconds for both Owen and Iron. So Leon's looking like he's going to be in a pretty good place here as well. I think he's just on. I know Leon's on 6 as well. So
yeah,
those
that's
3
why
all
Luke
fighting
backed
for
out.
position.
He is like, it's not worth it.
Ooh, big slide from the Alpine. But yeah, so all these guys up ahead are going to lose at least 6 seconds on penalties. As Mitchell picks up another 3, so that's going to be 6 for Mitchell as well. Owen's 11.5 off the back of him, which means Luke's about 13 off the back of Mitchell. Mitchell's got 6 seconds of penalties coming, and potentially more for that contact with Luke earlier in the race. So there could be a podium on here for Luke. Even without overtaking anyone, as long as these guys don't lose time to that little pair, as Tim's way off track at 11.
Oh, look at Luke. He's gained up to 50% battery. I think he's saving it for the last 2 laps.
Yeah, but I think going for moves on the last 2 laps into a train of 4 is potentially risky.
Oh, so's Leon. Leon got quite a lot of battery as well compared to everyone else.
Yeah, Leon was just kind
and
of
Luke in the prime position,
chilling in Tim's DRS for a long time there, and just getting dragged up towards this group, using Tim's pace, which is pretty good, but he does spend a lot of battery, so as good as his pace is, he doesn't have that extra little boost that you sometimes need just to make a move. Has Drake fallen asleep yet? Well, he hits the apex at turn 1, so I guess not.
Bold move, Tim making a move on Arjan into the last turn.
And down the inside, but a big snap from the Haas. That is going to allow Iron a better exit, and keeps P5 for now, although Tim's going to spend what little battery he has left, and he's going to go for a move on the inside on the Mercedes. Does he leave him space on the exit? Does leave space. That's going to allow the Aston Martin to try and gap these guys a little bit. Can he get out of DRS by the end of Sector 1? Tim seems to just have the better line, and Owen can't quite bridge that gap above about 7 tenths. Really needs to find another quarter of a second. Does he have battery to spend here? A little bit, but it's not going to be enough to get out of DRS range before the detection point, which is right there, 8.5 tenths. So that is going to be a rear wing opening on the Haas.
There seems to be no punishment for being out of battery. Or being in the bottom 10%. I thought it would be as... Oh, he's now got 0.
There is a little bit, but it's not as impactful as you would probably hope. The harvest seems a lot higher on this year's game, just from how much you regain under braking. So that 4, 5, 6% you want on the exit of kind of every corner, you're getting back on every corner. So you don't lose as much as you did last game cycle.
Okay.
As we see the tier steward arguing with one of the drivers who is supposed to be racing, Liam. Get back in your car and stop yelling at stewards. As Iron's dropping off the back of Tim a little bit. Iron's going to be out of DRS here, I think. Unless he just about managed to grab it.
His tires are falling off a cliff now.
Yeah, Iron's sliding all over the place. There's going to be Leon with a pretty easy move into turn 1 as he pulls out. Doesn't get swiped by the Mercedes and gets down the inside for T1. As Tim makes the move on Owen up ahead as well. So Tim's managed to gain like a second in that lap on Owen, from 7 tenths behind going through turn 1 last time round to making the move this time. So pretty good pace from the Haas, and those two need to try and get away from Leon here if they can. Although Leon's going to be looking at the exit out of here. Has spent quite a lot of battery to make that move on Iron. It was probably going to drop behind Luke here. And just about managed to grab the DRS, I think, on that Alfa Romeo. Let's take a quick look. No, not quite. So, going to be a bit of a sitting duck, get dropped a little bit here by Owen and Tim. As Owen's going to go for a move, Tim makes that defensive move and just closes it off, although it was a little bit late once again. That in real F1 may have been a black and white flag, but we don't really do that. He's going to send it into 13. Tim, come on. Just sends it, and now he's going for it into 15 as well, and forces Owen completely off track.
He's a Max Verstappen fan, isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he is Dutch. I mean, Owen's a Max fan, though, and, you know, Owen drives like a normal human. As
and he's
Tim
just got
picks up another 3
3 second
seconds.
penalty. Yeah. Was it worth it?
Probably not, because it's just going to drop him behind this whole train, because that fighting between them has put Leon right back on the back of them. And Iron's still hanging on to the back of this train as well, so Tim is going to drop behind all of these guys on penalties at the end of the race, unless you can somehow magically pull like 7 seconds here on this lap, which I think is kind of impossible unless he causes a 4-car pileup behind him somehow. As Owen has to lift in the middle of the S's, that puts Leon a lot closer to the back of that Aston Martin than he would probably like. Although Owen's managed to hang on to around about 40% battery, pretty similar percentages to Luke and Iron. But Leon's chilling on 65. So he's going to have a lot to spend here on these last 2 laps. I think we might see a bit of a spend here to try and either deplete Owen or make that move and get on the back of Tim. As we see that overtake is on, but Luke's is on as well, and he's going to go for a move in the Alpine. Try and get up to P6 on track. Can he be a little later on the, on the brakes?
He's already got a pen.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to lose time to the cars ahead. Yeah, so he doesn't mind
Leon's thinking, what are you doing?
He knows he's going to lose to Luke, but with the penalties Leon has, he needs to beat Owen on track. They're both on 6 seconds. He needs to beat Owen and Iron on track, if possible. We're going to have this inside line for 16, 17, and 18. You really can't hang it around the outside out there. And
Owen's been pushed wide.
A quick corner. Owen's off track. That puts Leon through into P5, although goes off track as well. Owen's going to fight this back on Luke, which I don't think is the smartest thing to do, to be honest, man. You should have probably left that where it was and does sort of cede the place on exit and allow Luke up into P6. These guys need to be careful that Tim doesn't get too far ahead of them. I know he's got 12 seconds of penalties, but these guys all have 6 as well, and while he's not going to pull 6 seconds in a lap, he could pull a decent length of time. As Ken's still on the back of Mitcher. I wonder if he's actually going to go for a move on this final lap, as we are going to head down the back straight for the last time. He's going to have a little bit of battery to play with, but Mitcher's got the same amount as well. I don't think Ken's going to spend too much of it. Mitcher's fuel light's flashing, though, so we could see an out of fuel AlphaTauri before the end of this one, which would be interesting, although that means he's got under a lap of fuel left, so it could be more than half a lap, as Alfie has pit for some soft tyres and steals Drake's fastest lap with a 1 minute 33.833. I don't think Drake's going to have enough grip left in order to take that on this final lap, as his fuel light's flashing as well, though you would expect that heading into the penultimate corner. And the American driver is going to make it back-to-back wins in the US of A. Seems everything is bigger in Texas, including the winning margin. 7 seconds back to Mitcher, who is going to come over the line, followed by Kalla. Drake DNF'd after the line because he does have somewhere he needs to go, but that result is going to stand, even though the standings are going to mess it up a little bit. And then we're going to see this group of guys cross the line. So it's going to be Tim P4 on track, followed by Leon, then Luke, then Owen, then Iron. But let's see how they shuffle around after penalties. It's going to be Luke, then Leon, then Owen, then Iron, then Tim. And is Nathan close enough to get Tim? I don't think he is. But there's always a chance.
I hit the plus 40.
Oh, yeah, that was to Drake.
Oh.
As Drake was shuffling now. Now misses out by 6.5 seconds. Lewis Pierce manages to jump Ben Morley and take P9. So another 2 points for Red Bull. That's going to make it 27 for them this race before penalties. As 2 guys outside the points is going to be Dino, who's going to come home in P12, followed by Alfie Harvey, who does get a point for that fastest lap that he managed to steal. So I imagine since Drake needs to go, he won't be interested in an interview, but I can always ask and find out. You never know, he might want to do an interview while he's doing quali for another race.
Enjoy the interviews. Speak to you later.
Thank you for joining me. It was nice to have somebody to bounce off while David's at work. Ugh.
It was fun. It was an exciting race as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good.
So it looks like we are going to have at least one driver. And I'm going to steal Mitcher, even though he might not want one. Good evening, Mitcher.
Good evening, good evening.
So, how did you find that?
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. It was frustrating to a certain point, but not much you can do. I tried to get out of the DRS, but here in the US, especially on the Texas track, it's almost impossible. I think also if I could have hang on the DRS of Drake, I could possibly hang on as well. But yeah, it is what it is. It was fun.
Yes, you got pretty aggressive off that off that safety car restart, and for a moment you had the lead, and it was so close to looking like you were going to be able to secure it, but Drake's just a little
Yeah,
bit too quick with those medium tires on.
yeah, I think he would have passed me sooner than later, either way, because he was really quick. And I didn't practice much for this one. I'm going to be missing the next race, but after that, yeah, I look forward to seeing to give him a little bit of a challenge.
Well, if you're missing next race, the next time out is for you at least is going to be China. So once again, a long DRS straight that's difficult to drop people out of. But that just means it's going to be harder for Drake to drop you as well, I suppose. And
Yeah,
quite an interesting track. It was a little bit scuffed last game, but it feels a lot better this time around.
yeah,
And definitely better than last week finished for you. So first points on the board for currently a P3. We'll have to see if penalties affect that. But that
yeah,
obviously that depends on reports and on Elliot's decisions.
exactly. Let's hope for the best.
But there was quite a gap behind you after everyone got embroiled in chaos. So if you go back and watch the race, just focus on that fourth to eighth group because it's mental.
I'll go watch now probably. So yeah, it should be fun.
I just had to keep checking in with Drake and make sure he hadn't fallen asleep, but no, he seemed all fine.
Yeah, yeah, he was just too fast today. Nothing really from me to offer. Also, even if I did get into his DRS, I would have been in the same position, probably couldn't overtake, so fair play to him.
Yeah, and you were together a long time on track, and you're together in the chat now. So, Kala, how did you find that? You are muted, by the way, if you weren't aware.
Yeah, yeah.
First race of season 5 on the podium. Can't be too unhappy with that.
Yeah, no. Qualifying was quite bad. I don't know why I could be it, but I already know that I'm much more better in the race, and yeah, race went really well. Safety car was actually quite good, and we got away from the others, and yeah, it was quite chill to after that. So yeah, I'm happy for P2, of course, and yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you broke away from that group behind, it was a little bit just hold stations and see what you and Mitchell could do. But unfortunately, Drake just a little too fast to get you up there fighting for that win. But maybe next time out in Miami we can see something a little different.
Yeah, of course. Drake is super fast, so yeah, it was difficult to get to win, but I was quite happy. So because my gap to Drake was, I think, 7.4 at the finish. So yeah, was quite happy about that. But yeah, let's see. Next week, Miami is not my favorite track in this game. So, but yeah, let's see
But
what
there's
I can do.
always the potential for chaos, and chaos can make
Yeah,
anything happen. We saw that in Vegas
yeah,
last week. Chaos made weird shit happen. So
yeah,
hopefully a few more points on the board for Ferrari next week.
yeah. Yeah. Oh,
But well, yeah, Drake had to go and do some stuff, so no interview with our race winner this week, unfortunately. Though he does talk a lot, so we got probably double the interview last week, so that probably covers for it. So yeah, make sure you join us We'll be starting out Sunday for F3, which is going to be a Miami next week out. Mondays is F4. Tuesdays F2, where you can see me race and probably not score points. And then Wednesdays, once again, for F1. David's back next week, so stream will be of a better quality. I apologise for Northern England internet; it's not ideal, but we're working with what we've got, unfortunately. So yes, join us in the, I don't even know, what do they call Florida? The scuffed state, probably, because I know California is the sunshine state. But yes, join us in Florida for the fake marina at Miami. I've been Zeke. I've been your commentator. I was joined by George. He's had to dip out before the interviews, so won't be here to say goodbye. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that random YouTube stuff. And we do have other socials, which should be in the description of this stream, assuming Luke's set it up right, which he probably has, because he generally does. And we will see you all